the actual.
It is.
And let me go over to yours, your source that you're looking at right now, Jeremy, because it does look like you've got a better beat on that on yours. So that area rotation right now is just to the south of Maud. That is definitely a clear, distinct rotation and a signal that could be producing a tornado. Jeremy, I'm going to go over to the wall real quick. What I want to do is I want you to show me quickly reflectivity, and then I want you to show me velocity so I can get, and take me out just a touch so I can make sure I've got my bearings properly on the storm as I give you an analysis of it. This is the broader band of the large supercell, the parent supercell. And what happens is the air starts to get pulled around the south. Now, this is where you would see the hail. So the hail is going to be going through the Maud area. In Fredericktown, and for what it's worth, by the way, downtown Louisville, it's getting just dumped on with rain. That hail core you can see is just north of where the tornado threat would be. This is on Storm View HD showing up to 1.9-inch size hail. That's going to go from Maud through Pollen through around the Willisburg area. Now, the area of concern for rotation is just to the south of the Maud area, and you can see Jeremy's kind of highlighting this area right here where the greens and reds come to each other. So this is right over Booker. If you're familiar with Mooresville and Booker, this is where our area of rotation is. What do you need to do? Look, I don't want you to go out and start freaking out. What I want you to do is kind of get your head on straight. I want you to go to the center part of your house if you live out ahead of this storm. So if you live in Pollen, if you live in Brush Grove or Willisburg, center part of the house. Keep away from windows. If you've got a closet in the middle of the house, that's one of the real safe spots to be. If you've got a basement, look, that's a great place to go. If you have a tub in the middle of the house, another safe place to go. It's always a good idea to cover yourself with some coats. Weather Service has deemed this as a storm that has the potential of producing a tornado. But the reason they said they issued the warning is they felt like we did that it's showing more signals with that rotation starting to increase, so they pulled the trigger and issued that warning. It's going to go across the junction of 458 and 55, and Jeremy's going to track only the rotation part of the storm. So the tornado could be in the Hardesty area 8 minutes from now, and in Willisburg in 17 minutes from now. So this is where we've got our areas of rotation of concern, and this storm, I think of all the storms, even that storm that earlier was tornado warned, Jeremy, this one kind of to us all along has seemed like it was the show.
Well, it certainly has the size. You know, for better portion of the last hour to 2 hours, it has been the largest storm in our viewing area. They've had multiple severe thunderstorm warnings on it. I'm going to take off lightning just because it seems to be kind of obscuring our view of the radar data.
Weather Service, by the way, just said maybe even 2 tornadoes in that tornado watch, with the latest scan showing another circulation south of Maud. So the Weather Service is talking that this is the show. This storm that is moving towards Willisburg is definitely the show. It's got areas of multiple rotation, and their wording is that there could be 2 tornadoes on the ground on this one. Again, this would be near Maud, Kentucky right now. It's going to hit the junction of 55, right along 55 here in moments.
You can see Willisburg. Guys, you're in line for this storm, so take shelter immediately. Thompsonville, Tatham Springs, this is your opportunity. You've got a little bit of time here. Go ahead and go to your safe place. Get underground if you can. Of course, you know that's preferable. If you don't have a basement, put as many walls between you and that potential tornado as possible. Go to the center portion of your house. Oftentimes a hallway bathroom or a hallway closet is a good place to take shelter.
And by the way, I always do monitor social media here. I'm on Twitter as we go, and I've got actually a live stream for you on Periscope here. So you get up multiple ways that you can actually watch us when we're doing a severe weather cut-in, but you can actually let me know what you're seeing in your area. Twitter's preferred because I can see it, but if you want to watch Periscope, I'm always live on, so you could actually see the coverage if you want. Bardstown, I'm getting images here that look like at least, Jeremy, look at this. We're looking at least at probably quarter-size hail and maybe up to the size of golf balls. And definitely supercell type of hail because there's multiple cores to it, which means the hail has traversed the thunderstorm. Jeremy, what I also want to do is go back to Louisville, because Louisville is now under a severe thunderstorm warning for the downtown area. They did just issue for all of Louisville. Louisville under a severe thunderstorm warning, winds to 60 miles an hour and inch-size hail. Let me just warn you, I know that there's people out at the Louisville FC game. This is not... You've got to get inside. You cannot be outside right now in downtown Louisville. It's dangerous. St. Matthews towards the Berrytown area and Worthington Hills, towards Middletown. The potential for hail to the size of nickels and maybe even some quarters are possible as that storm continues to move across Jefferson County. There is a concern. Timeline puts it 2 minutes from now in St. Matthews, 7 minutes from now in Linden, and 15 minutes from now in the Middletown area. Beckley, 20 minutes from now. Since we've got a lot of storms, what we want to do here quickly is Jeremy's going to go across the whole viewing area while I track each one of these individual thunderstorms. Jeremy, any storms you want to start on?
Yeah, let's just move from west to east. We'll get right back to that tornado warning in just a moment, but let's quickly point out the weather that's making its way out of Ohio County into Grayson County. Caneyville, you're seeing lightning and thunder. Not severe yet, but this one has had a history of producing straight line winds to 60 miles per hour and some sizable hail. It looks like this area here will see the worst of the weather over the next hour to 2 hours as far as the intensity of rainfall and the amount of thunderstorm activity. But we are not seeing the rotation here like we are on the storm off to our east. It's put a track on it. I appreciate that, Mark, out towards the Van Zandt area 5 minutes from now. Shorts Creek 22 minutes from now. Litchfield about 38 minutes from now if that storm maintains its current pace. Now, additional severe thunderstorms, as Mark just mentioned, this one was issued for downtown Louisville. It does include Jeffersonville, near Silver Creek, Clarksville, points off to the east. I'll be honest, this is not the most impressive storm we've seen here this evening, but it did have a warning earlier with it when it was moving through portions of Harrison and also Floyd counties. That was for hail. Mark's got a track on it for you. Linden 13 minutes from now. Middletown 25 minutes from now. Crestwood here about 31 minutes from now. Again, some hail with that one. Let's go back to the storm that we're most concerned with, Mark. And again, Washington County moving out of Nelson County. That is a tornado warned storm. It looks like they've shaved off the Nelson County out of the tornado warning.
They have.
Now it's just Washington County. Pollen, you're very close to where that rotation could be. Valley Hill, also possible rotation. And Mark, can we go back over to velocity?
We can, Jeremy.
See if...
And the reason Jeremy wants to look at velocity here is he's going to, at the wall here, basically assess the rotation potential on this storm. What are you seeing, Jeremy?
Well, you see where we have the greens and the reds coming together. Where the greens actually winds moving towards the radar site. The reds are winds then moving away from the radar site. That's a pretty decent little signature there. Possible tornado here, Valley Hill. This is moving east, so Pleasant Grove, Litzy. You're in line to see this thunderstorm near you. And again, that potential tornadic rotation will move right across this area, this portion of Washington County. Now, it looks like you are underneath that tornado warning as well, Willisburg. Right now, it looks like severe winds and hail for you. The actual potential tornadic rotation moving quickly off to the east. Mark's got a good track on it for you. Pleasant Grove, 5 minutes from now. Battle, 22 minutes from now. And Cornishville, about 27 minutes from now. Obviously, we've got our hands full here, Mark. This is the second tornado warning that we've had to deal with here in the last hour.
And here, it's kind of an interesting one in some senses because what we've been looking at in the atmosphere for Louisville, it's been cold, and you're probably wondering, well, how can we see severe weather in Louisville? I'll tell you, go above the ground and it's a little bit warmer, number one. But number two, you know, when it's cold like this, it actually can increase that potential of seeing some hail. So that's kind of what's happening here. The biggest supercell that we've seen in our area is the storm that moved through Bardstown. I've got so many pictures here that are following me on Twitter of seeing that hail in your area. Looks like at least it produced hail to the size of quarters, at least hail to the size of quarters that occurred in our area, or in the Bardstown area. But now that heading off to the east puts that hail core near the Poland area, and then the area of rotation heading through Valley Hill into the Pleasant Grove area. I'm going to take you over to Stormview 3D here. We use 3D as in a sense, kind of our insider into the storm. We use it because we feel like it can help us identify tornadoes the best. Jeremy, you know, from a rotation standpoint, I don't think it looks fantastic, but equal distance right now between Springfield and Willisburg is where I'm seeing that area of rotation. I don't see what I would call a distinct tornado signature on this, but I think it's enough to justify the warning, and partially because this has been a supercell thunderstorm for a while. And you know what? It doesn't take much for this thing. Even one scan, within one scan, we can end up going to tornado, a more defined signature. So I think this is a storm that's worth watching. We talked yesterday that we get tornado warnings out of this and a lot of severe thunderstorms. We talked about large hail would be the biggest threat. And I think overall that's verified. Jeremy, that hail core looks really like it's a problem on the northern side of that storm, boy.
It sure does, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's going to head just north of Willisburg right now. The reflectivity on that, whenever it borders on getting towards black, so between Chaplin and Willisburg, we've got a real hail problem on that storm.
I'll also mention, Mark, that there was a second tornado warning that was issued for the Danville area. This is outside of our viewing area, but it's worth mentioning. These are thunderstorms that were rolling through portions of Marion, southern Washington County in our viewing area just a little while earlier. But we noted that all the storms in this area, as they've gone up, they began to rotate. So that tornado warning did include Danville. I think officially you're still underneath a tornado warning.
And you know what's interesting, Jeremy? When they issued that tornado warning, if you notice looking closely, it was actually a cell merger. It looks like two storms came together. It enhanced the rotation on that storm. They dropped the tornado warning, and I think ultimately that's what we were looking at there, what happened. So it's been interesting. With all these storms out there, cell mergers, probably the most famous cell merger of them all is what happened in Joplin. That was an extreme case, but when cells merge together and the storms come together, there's no question about it. They can get more rotation. It can enhance things. This one storm is very different, though, over at Valley Hill right now. This is an individual supercell. It's been doing its thing for a while. With some storms, you know, the interesting thing is as you look at this, the inflow into the storm seems to still be unobstructed. There is no rain to the south of it, so I think there's no reason that storm should lose its punch as things stand right now. Remember, it's not the only show in town. Jeremy, you know, we saw that storm come through downtown. I didn't get a chance to step outside, but I heard at least what was heavy rain. I assume that we're probably getting some hail reports. If you are, let me know, by the way.
Weather Service actually just reported half-inch hail downtown or near downtown. Last,
and half-inch would not be considered severe per se, so it's not something that's going to damage your vehicles. But, you know, like I said, the Louisville FC soccer game, if people are outside for that or were, that is a concern. Litchfield, we're not forgetting about you. We've been watching your area all afternoon and evening. We think you are going to see severe weather, and we think you're probably about 40 minutes away from a strong to severe storm with 60 to 70 mile-an-hour winds moving into your area. And Jeremy, the southern part of our area, that's where we've got the most energy.
We do. You know, I was just looking at the Kentucky Mesonet, Mark, and the temperature in Munfordville right now is at 75 degrees. Now, contrast that with what we have in Frankfort right now. Frankfort and basically our eastern, northeastern counties at 50 degrees. So you have a 25-degree difference in a very, very short distance. You go from Munfordville and you go to Frankfort. What is that? Is it like 100 miles maybe? You've got a 25-degree difference there. And you've been talking about this for days about how we really have to watch this warm front because it could provide the focus for tornadic activity.
You know, the crazy thing is I don't think it's really fair to call it a cold front per se.
Or a warm front.
But the same thing is, but the weird thing is it's actually moving south. It's kind of an oddball situation. I think the reason it got displaced somewhat is because of the thunderstorms to the north. This isn't going to go all night, to be clear. We're talking about thunderstorms potential for damaging hail and tornadoes probably for the next 2 hours or so. I actually talked to my wife a little while ago. She said, when are you coming home? I hope I'm going to be getting home in the next couple of hours. I miss my wife and my daughter. It's always nice on weekends to get a little bit of time to see them. But with the Kentucky Derby Festival going on, this is a major situation. What I want you to go, Jeremy, is go back over to Louisville. Remember, tonight's opening night at Churchill Downs. So this creates somewhat of an outdoor dilemma. If you have friends that are outside of Churchill Downs and you're wondering what they should be doing, first off, Churchill Downs would be right here. So that storm, what you'll notice is they never actually went under the severe thunderstorm warning. With that said, I'm not sure, Richard, can we find out with news if they did evacuate or pull anybody inside because of that severe thunderstorm at Churchill Downs? We're going to have our news team take a look in that because I'm kind of curious. But for Churchill Downs, I don't want people outside right now. Just text your friends if they're out there for opening night and say, hey, Mark just said stay inside, give him another 30 minutes, and he said the lightning will be gone. I think we're probably talking about 15 or 20 minutes, but let's just make sure that they're not outside with the potential for lightning. The east end of Louisville, some small hail on the table here, and everybody's reporting hail on this storm to the size of peas, but I think up to 1-inch hail could occur, and that's what they issue severe thunderstorm warnings for. Louisville FC game is downtown. I don't think your threat's that high right now for any of the stronger thunderstorms, but as that storm came through, there's no doubt it produced some hail. I need you to stay inside for the next 20 to 30 minutes, letting the lightning get away from you. The threat is now decreasing from E-Town, from Valley Station, from Brandenburg. Our one storm that we're watching the closest is the tornado-warned storm, and we have obviously been paying the most attention to it because the tornado-warned storm is a threat to life and property. Jeremy, I'd like to see if I could velocity on this as well.
Sure.
It does look like I think that rotation's becoming a little bit more diffuse. While it may just be cycling, it does appear that that storm's taking a little bit of a beating right now.
Yeah, it is, and that's probably part of the reason why the Weather Service just issued a new severe thunderstorm warning. This is going to replace the tornado warning, so they kind of think the same thing that we are, that the rotation is not quite as tight. It's still obviously a sizable storm. It is a supercell thunderstorm, and so going forward, it looks like winds to 60 miles per hour, hail to 1 inch will be the main problem.
And the tornado warning goes for the counties that are in the tornado warning now, Washington County, Kentucky. So only Washington County, Kentucky in the tornado warning. It stays in effect through 7:45, which is another 10 seconds from now. Jeremy kind of already alluded to the fact that obviously they're going to drop that tornado warning, and the storm, from just a radar perspective, looks like it is suffering just a little bit. Actually, it looks like it's suffering a lot, and maybe it's because some of those storms are now starting to go up south of it. We're going to continue to keep an eye on things. With that tornado warning being allowed to expire again, I want to make sure that we pull that off the map for sure before we send you back to programming. So while we'll wait, looks like it just got pulled. That keeps a severe thunderstorm warning for the eastern part of Louisville. Right now, the eastern Jefferson County severe thunderstorm warning is until 8:05, another 20 minutes. Hail up to the size of 1 inch possible on that storm. It doesn't look like it's a threat to life and property. And what I mean by that is, yes, I think that storm can produce hail, but I don't think the hail is going to be large enough to damage vehicles or the winds strong enough to cause any major destruction. 60-mile-an-hour winds possible on that storm. We'll continue to monitor these as they come across the area. We're watching you in Litchfield, that storm with 60-mile-an-hour winds moving into your area. It is having what we call a mesoscale convective vortex, or what's an MCV. You can actually see that rotation if you look towards Whitesville. That can sometimes cause spin-ups, so we'll watch that area very closely as well. No tornado warnings in effect right now. We'll continue to monitor things. Keep it right here on WDRB for continuing weather updates.
You say avocado?
Gonna buy a Chinese baby.
No.
Guatemalan?
We were planning to adopt.
Same difference.
We were consulting with lawyers. They did a complete investigation into our relationship. Maybe.
Last time we spoke, we promised you that if we felt like any of the weather was a threat to life and property, we would cut back in and let you know what's going on. We've got a new tornado warning that was just issued in Jeremy. You know, the last time that we were on the air, we talked about how that rotation in the northern part of the line near Litchfield, we refer to this as a mesoscale convective vortex, or an MCV, shows some rotation, and sometimes you can get a spin up within there.
Sure enough.
Now we're back on about 30 minutes later talking about that. So we're going to go to Storm View HD right now and show you for Hart County in Kentucky, we have now a tornado warning that has been issued. This is radar indicated, 1 inch size hail, and basically the Weather Service saying that tornado potentially could be 7 miles to the north of Brownsville. You've been watching that storm, Jeremy. And, you know, I think the great concern would be winds to 60 miles an hour and hail, but a quick spin-up is totally on the table in this scenario.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time. You get that bow echo, and that's pretty much what we're dealing with. Well, along that bow and what we call the apex of the bow, oftentimes you can get the winds to spin up just enough. This is typically produces a short-lived tornado, but can produce a series of tornadoes as well.
Yeah, you know, a tornado is a tornado too, and you know, we talk about that a lot, a weak tornado versus strong, but I mean, any kind of tornado can cause some damage. And Jeremy's got on there for you what we refer to as velocities. The velocities, what it basically means is where you look at the reds and the greens that come together. When the reds and the greens are right next to each other, this is potentially where we could be seeing a tornado. Now, Jeremy, you know, all along that line, really when you go from around the Canalaway area as you go to Ponderosa and then to around Ringdale, virtually every part in that area
I would be maybe even more concerned with this area just outside of the tornado warning, that Ponderosa area. You just mentioned it. It's not officially in the warning, but that to me at least looks like a little better signature.
Yeah, and if you could, Jeremy, on 3D, go make sure that's the current frame. I just want to see that current frame.
Yep. There we go.
It's just got basically a lot of kinks along the line from Annetta through Bee Spring, Lindsay, I mean, all of these areas. And this is one of those tornado warnings where I don't, you know, the whole entire area has potential a little rotation in it. The Weather Service just felt like since this is within the mesoscale convective vortex, which is the top of that line, they would put out a tornado warning to protect. And honestly, I can't really argue with that. It's a very, very warm, unstable air. And you showing that in motion, you can see that little twirl that comes into Litchfield, that's that mesoscale convective vortex, that little upper level feature that develops within strong to severe thunderstorms, and that can cause that quick little area of rotation within there. Just over Litchfield, that's the exact area of concern. And Jeremy here, what I'm going to do is head over to the wall and let's do a quick, basically storm track on this storm so you can see what's going on. And timeline, we can give locations and areas so you know when to expect it. And we'll go through the whole area because I know that this isn't the only storm obviously causing issues, but we want to spend our time first on the Hart County storm. And this is everything in motion. Look, for Louisville, any more concern? No. All clear in Louisville. It's still going to rain. If you're at Churchill Downs or if you're thinking about heading to Churchill Downs, you gotta be prepared for rain on opening night. I know Louisville FC playing a game tonight as well. Just be prepared for rain for the next few hours. Probably about 2 hours of rain more. So by 10:30, we should be ending that. In East Shelby County here, we did get reports. Our Rick Bozich actually in Shelbyville told us he was seeing hail to the size a little bit bigger than peas. Rick, I appreciate that report. By the way, if you can tell me what you're seeing in your area, you can find me on Twitter. I'm very easy to find. It's Marc Weinberg WX. Find me on Twitter. Let me know what you're seeing in your area so I can let everybody else know. But that severe thunderstorm right now, right near the Waddy-Peytona exit along 64. So this is extreme eastern part of Shelby County right now. Notice it's devoid of a lot of the lightning strikes. So in a sense, I think it's losing some of its punch. That's a positive. A track on this storm is going to take it into Frankfort here in about the next 15 minutes or so. Jeremy's going to take care of that part. Frankfort 9 minutes from now. Puts it in the Slickway 16 minutes from now, and then pulling away from our viewing area towards Midway in around 30 minutes. As we go south, is it all clear right now from Bullitt County? Yes, all clear in E-Town. I don't want to say that quite yet because there's still a couple of storms here, but Brandenburg, Hardinsburg, English, I can say all clear. And then we've got that strong to severe thunderstorm right now. Winds are likely going to go 60 miles an hour on this storm. But there could be, within the storm itself, and this is kind of what Jeremy was alluding to, notice there's these little kinks within that area. And each one of these little kinks, here's one that Jeremy kind of identified just north of Wax. This is one of those areas of rotation that you could get a quick spin up. More little areas of rotation near Straw. This is heading towards Winesap and towards the Munfordville area. Actually, Jeremy, I think this rotation area here near Wax may actually be even a little bit more interesting.
It does. It looks that way. Let's put that in motion last 15 minutes, and sometimes we like to look at multiple frames to get an idea of if something is developing. And you can see it's kind of persistent there, that bright green area that Marc had just pointed out. And part of the problem here with this southern part of the line is I think they're rotating, they're issuing a tornado warning based on history of what can happen in these kind of scenarios. But I mean, the issue is when the storm is moving basically perpendicular to the radar beam. So the radar is coming right down this way. The radar can only see what's referred to as radial winds. It can only see winds that are coming towards it or going away from it. So this is, in a sense, a difficult area. But this little kink right here, if there was a tornado, it would be in one of these areas near Wax or this other area just to the west of Munfordville. Jeremy's going to put a track on the whole area, and I think it's probably wise because that whole area could be rotating and could produce a quick spin up, and that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about traditionally long-lived tornadoes in this time. We're talking about quick spin-ups. Bonneville 10 minutes from now, and Munfordville. Expect that storm in your area about 18 minutes from now, and then Hardyville 29 minutes from now. Weinberg, or Marc, I should say, excuse me.
We call each other by last names here.
We get a little informal at times, yeah, you know, we had these storms, they all flared up right around 6 o'clock this afternoon. Prior to that, really, we didn't have the ingredients in place, but it happened very, very quickly, and things really intensified once we hit about the 7 o'clock hour. We've already been on the air twice for tornado warnings. This will be a third time, and really, the majority of the viewing area, I really don't think is at risk for much in the way of severe weather going forward. The focus will be on our southeastern counties where the atmosphere is pretty much undisturbed down here. For Munfordville, for instance, that's why the storm is going to be, it's going to hit so hard when it moves in. It's got a lot of fuel to work with. Greensburg, Campbellsville, Lebanon, you haven't seen a whole lot of activity near you yet. In Columbia, eventually all this is going to work its way towards you. But with loss of heating, the sun is going down basically as we speak, I do think that that bodes well with the overall intensity of the storm system, I think, as we go throughout the next hour, 2 hours to come, Marc.
You know, one of the things here that we get a lot is I hear a lot of people saying, well, I don't live in Louisville, and you guys ignore me. And one of the things we do at WDRB, you know, I remember when I was growing up, I didn't live in the city. And I remember that they always cut in for when there were storms in the city, and we always felt like, well, nobody cares about us. I hope by our actions we show you that we care about you in Hart County. We're not going to cut in just for Louisville warnings. And I know in Louisville it requires for you to be a little bit patient if it's not in the city. But you know what? If there was a tornado warning for your house, I think you'd be craving information as well. So we're just trying to let people know what's going on and let everybody know that, you know, everybody's equally important in our area. The area of rotation that we're watching, boy, I tell you, this is gonna. If it does produce a tornado, Jeremy, it's almost going to be one of those that happens so quickly because the radar just is not giving us a lot of signals. And on top of that, we're in an area, since it's so far away from the radar, that we're looking 4,000 feet above the ground. Yeah. It's one of the things about radar analysis is when you're really close to the radar, it gives you the ability to see a whole lot more. When it's far away from the radar, sometimes you just have to issue warnings because you know, it's very, very difficult to see near ground. If you're in Munfordville, by the way, or you're anywhere in Hart County and you can safely let us know what you're seeing, and I want to say that again, safely let us know what you're seeing, please send me a tweet. I'm Marc Weinberg, WX on Twitter. Let me know what you're seeing.
Marc, this storm that you talked about, it's very, very tough, as you mentioned, to verify these warnings or get these warnings out in a timely fashion on a system such as this. That bow echo you alluded to, when it does produce them, unfortunately, they're very short-lived. They're tough to pick up on a radar, but Weather Service, as you mentioned, though, what they're basically doing is they're taking a look back at history. Well, historically speaking, this type of a storm system can produce a quick-hitting tornado. So that's why they've issued the warning. That's why we're on the air, not because we have a specific location for you right now, but we know that this area here, which does include Munfordville, that does include much of Hart County, it would be in a favorable area with this storm. Now, you mentioned it.
Across 65, too, is the other thing about that. You know, we got to be concerned about vehicles heading.
Let's time that.
Vehicles heading on 65 right now, south or north, coming basically into Hart County. If nothing else, Jeremy, I mean, I think you're going to see 60-mile-an-hour winds. But basically, this should be crossing 65 within about 12 to 14, you think?
Yeah, right about 14, 15 minutes from now, it will be in Munfordville, it looks like. And I also noticed that we are seeing rain and thunderstorms out ahead of the main line. Now, that line's where you're going to have the strongest winds, but we are seeing some showers develop out ahead of that as well.
You know, this tornado warning goes in effect, or stays in effect for, let me make sure I got the timing correct on our tornado warning. It stays in effect until 7:55, so it goes for another 18 minutes or so.
Which will be 8:55 Eastern.
Yeah, and you know, we'll stay with it, I think, for probably about another 5 minutes. And the reason I say that is because you know, it doesn't show, there's nothing out there that jumps out at me as a tornado right now. A lot of times what they'll do in these scenarios, Jeremy, is issue a severe thunderstorm warning with the tornado possible because you can get a brief spin up. But, you know, this one is going to be very, very difficult to see a tornado that actually occurs on radar. And I think Munfordville, you just got to be prepared about 12 to 14 minutes from now. We're looking at the rotation here within that thunderstorm. Remember, where reds and greens meet is the area that we're watching. It is approaching Munfordville, but it doesn't look great. It really doesn't.
There's just new data coming in right now, and
I'm still struggling to see anything. That even the velocity, the actual velocity speeds are not that impressive. So with those weaker velocities, again, there's nothing out there that really jumps out at me as tornado, Jeremy.
No, and we talk about the reds and the greens. The green, this is air that's moving towards the radar site, which is located up here. And then the reds, air that's moving away from the radar site. Now, when you get them coming together and you have the bright reds and the bright greens together, that's when we have a concern. Now, what we have are just broad winds out of the south ahead of this storm. We've got broad winds out of the north behind it. There's a little rotation here, but again, nothing overwhelming. Now, you see these little hot spots where you have the brighter reds or little hot spots where you have the brighter greens next to the reds. These are areas where you could get a quick little spin up, but it'd be so short-lived, and most of the time, these type of systems just don't stay on the ground if they do occur at all. And most of the time, to be quite honest with you, most of the time they don't occur.
The actual, you know, what's also interesting, Jeremy, is the area where we're seeing the best rotation is almost embedded within the rain, which is not really where you would expect if there was a tornado to form in this kind of scenario. Many times we get tornadoes that occur on the nose of the line, which would be Winesap, Macon, through Bonnieville, but from Northtown, the rotation's embedded back in there if there is any. I just am not overly concerned about it. there's no real signals in that thing that are showing tornado. It just doesn't look superb right now. But like I said, we'll stay with it for a couple more minutes. I want to tell you all clear areas, all clear Madison, Seymour, all clear Driftwood through Bedford. I want to give you the all clear here in Paoli in English. Leavenworth, Brandenburg, you've got some rain occurring right now. Flaherty, you've got rain, but all clear. I don't think there's any severe threat left in Louisville. Notice the storm that was severe in Shelby County. I told you it was devoid of a lot of lightning strikes, which kind of signaled that it might be weakening somewhat. That's kind of what we're seeing now on radar here, that we're looking at less strikes and less lightning strikes, which would indicate to me that the severe threat for Frankfurt is going down. Willisburg, that storm right now struggling somewhat, but could see some small hail from Springfield through around the Harrodsburg area. Magnolia continues to see rain and thunderstorms occurring. And then as we go further off to the south, we've got that one storm that's severe, and this is fully justified being severe for Munfordville, Horse Cave. If you live east of that area near Greensburg, Campbellsville, and Columbia, I think at least expect wind gusts to 60 miles per hour. That's possible. Munfordville, Kentucky could see a quick spin up. And you know, this last scan here, Jeremy, there may be a little bit more of a kink on that near the Macon area. So maybe getting a quick area of rotation. This is not your classic long track kind of tornado scenario. This would be a quick spin up, but it is crossing I-65 right now.
Yeah,
so
getting very, very close to that 65 corridor.
So you got to be careful if you live in 65 right now, or along the 65 corridor in Hart County here.
Not too many people live in 65.
Fair enough,
I just want to
Jeremy.
point that out.
Fair enough. If you live near 65, the 65 corridor in Hart County, then likely you could see some issues. And if you're driving 65, fair enough, Kappell?
Yep, that's better.
Okay, if you're driving along 65, you've got to use a little caution here with that storm moving towards you. Now, what do you do in Munfordville if you're going to take tornado safety precautions? What I want you to do is I want you to get downstairs and away from any windows. I want you to be in the center part of your house. The reason the center of the house is so helpful is because it puts a lot of walls between you and if there was a possible tornado. It just allows, if there's debris that's getting flung, it would get flung into the building, and it acts as a buffer to you. If you can get into a center part of your house where there, let's say, is a small closet, great idea. If you can get into a bathtub in the center of the house, those are the safest spots to go when there's a possible tornado. And, you know, it's never worth taking any risk. I know with my family, if I've got a tornado warning going on, I send out a text to my wife right away, and they go down. She goes down into the basement, and they'll play some games down there for a little while to kind of, for my wife and daughter to kind of stay entertained. But I don't like taking risks with this stuff. I've seen too much destruction in my life.
No, you really can't. And you know, if you're, every parent should have that emergency action plan. You should have that talk with your kids, your wife or your spouse, and so that they know exactly where to go when the time counts. You don't ever want to come up with an emergency action plan when an actual emergency is occurring. You see, that time is before the emergency occurs. So in this case here, if you live in Munfordville, hopefully you know where your safe place is. Go there now. This threat's going to pass pretty quickly, Mark, as you can, as we've been watching this storm. It's picking up some steam. It's crossing over 65, as you mentioned right now. It should be through Munfordville in the next 5, maybe 10 minutes.
And without me seeing anything on radar here that really looks justifying or thinking that a tornado is going to touch down, I don't want to just sit and talk for no reason. The Weather Service has said that they canceled the tornado warning for Edmonson County. They're keeping the tornado warning here for Hart County. Their wording is the National Weather Service indicates a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado 11 miles to the west of Munfordville, moving east at 35 miles per hour. This was as of 8:41. We don't have anything that is verifying. I just think the rotation's too broad right now.
Yeah.
So, you know, Jeremy and I agree that it's too broad. I think what we're going to continue to do is monitor it. If I feel that the tornado threat comes up, I'll come back in. There is a tornado warning in effect for Hart County for another 11 minutes. Jeremy and I will continue to watch it closely. We'll have updates for you on Facebook, on Twitter, Marc Weinberg, WX on Twitter. I'm easy to find, and also broadcast on Periscope as well, so you can kind of see behind the scenes. But if we deem this threat increasing, you bet we'll be right back on TV. Keep it right here on WDRB for continuing weather updates.
Telling the truth.